The more often you wait until you feel ready, the harder your brain makes the task. Because every time something feels uncomfortable and you escape, your brain learns the same lesson. Avoiding it makes you feel better. So, the email feels heavier tomorrow. The project becomes harder to open. And after breaking enough promises to yourself, the real problem is no longer the unfinished task. It is that you stop trusting yourself when you say, "I'll do it later." In this video, I'll show you 21 tiny habits that can make difficult things easier to start, easier to continue, and harder to avoid. You'll learn how to reduce the resistance before you begin. Remove the distractions that pull you away. Stay with discomfort a little longer and keep moving even when motivation disappears. And here is the important part. You are not avoiding hard things because you are weak. Hard things feel harder because your brain has practiced escaping the first moment of discomfort. Avoidance is a trained response, which means it can be retrained. Not with one huge act of discipline. With small actions repeated at the exact moment you normally give up. Do not try to use all 21 habits. Find the one that matches the moment where you usually disappear. Habit 1. Make the first step almost too small to fail. Most tasks become intimidating because we describe them at the wrong size. Finish the presentation is not one action, it is a collection of actions. Open the file. Choose a title. Write 3 rough points, find 1 image. Edit 1 slide. When your mind sees the entire project at once, it reacts to the total weight. So reduce the task until the first step feels almost silly. Do not tell yourself to clean the apartment. Put 1 plate in the sink. Do not tell yourself to write the report. Open the document and type the heading. Do not tell yourself to work out. Put on your shoes. A tiny first step is not meaningless. It is a doorway. Once your body is in motion, the task becomes less theoretical and more manageable. Habit 2. Use a 2-minute entry. Promise yourself that you only have to do the task for 2 minutes. Read 1 paragraph. Stretch for 2 minutes. Sort 1 small pile. Work on the spreadsheet until the timer ends. The important part is that you are genuinely allowed to stop. This matters because a promise you do not trust will not reduce resistance. If 2 minutes secretly means, "And then I must continue for an hour," your mind will notice. Sometimes you will stop after 2 minutes. That is fine, you still practiced beginning. Sometimes those 2 minutes will become 10 or 20 because the hardest part was crossing the starting line. The goal is not to trick yourself into working longer. The goal is to make starting feel safe enough to attempt. Habit 3. Prepare the first scene in advance. Make the beginning visible before you need to begin. Open the document the night before. Put the book on your pillow. Place your workout clothes beside the bed. Leave the form and a pen on the table. Fill the water bottle before you go to sleep. A task becomes harder when starting requires several small decisions. Where is the file? What do I need? Which page was I on? Where are my shoes? Each question creates another opportunity to delay. Prepare the first scene so that your future self can walk into it without negotiating. You are not completing the task in advance. You are removing the small obstacles, standing in front of it. Habit 4. Replace the decision with a physical action. When the time arrives, do not ask, "Do I feel like doing this?" That question turns the task into a debate, and the part of you that wants comfort is usually very persuasive. Choose a physical action instead. At 7 o'clock, sit in the chair. After breakfast, open the notebook. When the meeting ends, put the phone in the drawer. After you arrive home, change into walking shoes. You are not demanding that you complete everything. You are simply removing the repeated decision about whether to begin. Feelings can change from 1 minute to the next. A physical cue gives you something more stable to follow. Habit 5. Move before the negotiation starts. When you notice yourself hesitating, count down from 5 and make one physical movement. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Stand up. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Reach for the file. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Press call. The countdown is not magic. It creates a short bridge between intention and movement. You are interrupting the moment when your mind begins producing reasons to wait. Do not use the countdown to force yourself through an entire task. Use it to make the first movement. You do not need to know whether you can finish. You only need to stop standing still. Now that beginning is easier. The next group of habits makes avoidance less convenient. Habit 6. Put your phone farther away than your impulse. Keeping your phone face down beside you is often not enough. You can reach it before you have consciously decided to use it. Give the impulse some distance. Put the phone across the room. Leave it in a drawer. Charge it outside the bedroom. Use another room when you need 20 focused minutes. The goal is not to prove that you can resist temptation while it sits directly in front of you. The goal is to make the helpful behavior easier than the distracting one. A few extra steps can create enough time for you to notice what you are doing. That moment of noticing matters. It gives you a chance to choose instead of acting automatically. Habit 7. Keep only one task visible. When 10 unfinished tasks are open at the same time, every task competes with the others. You start writing, then you notice an email. You remember the laundry. You see another browser tab. You suddenly think about something you need to buy, and your attention is scattered before any real work begins. Choose one visible task. Close the extra tabs, put unrelated papers away. Hide the full list and keep only the next action in front of you. This does not mean the other responsibilities have disappeared. It means you are giving your mind one clear target instead of 20 open loops. A large list may help you remember everything, but it does not need to remain in front of you while you work on one thing. Habit 8. Give difficult work a home. Use the same place for the same kind of work whenever possible. A certain chair for reading, one corner of the table for paperwork, a library desk for studying, a specific bench for planning. Over time, the location becomes a cue. You sit down, and your body begins to recognize what happens there. The place does not need to be beautiful. It does not need expensive equipment. It does not need to look like someone else's perfect workspace. It only needs to be consistent enough that beginning requires less mental preparation. When every location is used for everything, it is easy to drift. A familiar place can quietly tell you, "This is what we do here." Habit 9. Remove the obvious exit before you start. Think about how you usually escape. Do you open social media? Check messages? Get snacks? Start researching new tools instead of using the ones you already have. Do you keep changing the plan? Remove the most obvious exit in advance. Log out. Block the website for 30 minutes. Prepare water. Download the material. Put the tools within reach. Decide what done for today means before you begin. Willpower can be useful, but design is often more reliable. Do not make yourself fight the same avoidable battle every day. You do not earn extra credit for working in an environment that constantly pulls you away. The next group of habits trains something deeper, your ability to remain present when a task feels uncomfortable. Habit 10. Do one mildly uncomfortable thing on purpose. Not something dangerous. Not something extreme. Choose a small action that creates manageable discomfort. Take the stairs. Make the phone call you have delayed. Ask the question even if you feel awkward. Finish the last 5 minutes of the task. Sit with a quiet moment instead of filling it immediately. The purpose is not suffering. The purpose is to build evidence that discomfort can rise, exist, and pass without controlling your behavior. You are teaching yourself, "I can feel resistance and still move." Start small. You are not trying to prove how much pain you can tolerate. You are expanding your ability to stay present when comfort is not immediately available. Habit 11. Wait 1 minute before escaping boredom. The moment a task becomes dull, many of us reach for stimulation automatically. Try delaying the escape by 60 seconds. When you want to check your phone, wait. Keep your hands still. Notice the urge without obeying it immediately. You do not need to feel calm. You do not need to make the urge disappear. You are practicing a small gap between feeling an impulse and following it. That gap is where choice begins. At first, 1 minute may feel surprisingly long. That is useful information. It shows how quickly your mind has become accustomed to changing the channel whenever stimulation drops. The ability to stay with boredom is not glamorous, but many meaningful things require it. Habit 12. Stay 5 minutes longer. When you want to quit, ask whether you can stay for 5 more minutes. Write for 5 more minutes. Walk for 5 more minutes. Study one more example. Remain in the difficult conversation long enough to say the important sentence. 5 minutes is long enough to practice persistence, but short enough to feel possible. This habit is especially useful when you are not truly exhausted, but you have reached the first wave of frustration. There is often a moment when the task stops feeling new, easy, or interesting. That is when the desire to leave becomes strongest. Staying for 5 more minutes teaches you that the first urge to stop does not always need to make the decision. Do not use this habit to ignore pain, illness, or real limits. Use it when the main problem is the urge to escape discomfort quickly. Habit 13. Touch the part you are avoiding first. Most difficult tasks contain one section that creates most of the resistance. It might be the opening paragraph, the first phone call, looking at the bank balance, asking for feedback, reading the confusing instructions. We often work around that part while pretending to be productive. We adjust the formatting, organize the folders, rewrite the easy section, research something we already understand. Instead, touch the uncomfortable part briefly at the beginning. You do not have to solve it completely. Spend 5 minutes on the section you most want to avoid. Write one sentence. Read the first page. Look at the number. Ask the first question. Once the most threatening part becomes familiar, the entire task often feels smaller. Habit 14. Allow an ugly first version. Perfection makes beginning feel dangerous. If the first attempt must be clear, intelligent, organized, organelles, and impressive, then every blank page becomes a test of your worth. Give yourself permission to produce a bad first version. Write the awkward paragraph. Make the rough sketch. Record the clumsy practice. Create the basic draft that nobody else will see. A rough version gives you something to improve. An empty page gives you nothing. The first version is not a final judgment. It is raw material. The purpose of the first attempt is not to prove your ability. It is to create something that the second attempt can work with. Now we need habits that reduce your dependence on motivation. Habit 15. Start at a regular time. Motivation changes. A start time can remain stable. You might read at 8 in the evening. Work on the application after breakfast. Walk at 5:30. Study for 20 minutes after lunch. The exact time matters less than the repeated connection. When a task has no time, it becomes something you must remember, choose, and feel ready for. When it has a regular place in the day, it becomes less personal. You do not need to ask whether today is the perfect day. The time arrives, and you begin the smallest version. Some days the session will go well. Some days it will feel slow. The habit is not having the same performance every day. The habit is reducing the number of times you must decide when to start. Habit 16. Create a minimum version. Decide what counts on a difficult day. Your normal workout might be 30 minutes. The minimum version might be a 10-minute walk. Your normal writing target might be 500 words. The minimum might be 50. Your normal study session might be an hour. The minimum might be reviewing 5 cards. A minimum version protects continuity without pretending that every day has the same energy, time, or emotional capacity. The goal is not to lower every standard forever. The goal is to prevent one difficult day from becoming complete disappearance. The minimum should be small enough that you can do it during a difficult week, but real enough that it keeps you connected to the behavior. Habit 17. Shrink the habit instead of canceling it. When life becomes chaotic, many people choose between doing the full plan and doing nothing. Create a third option. If you cannot clean the whole room, clear one surface. If you cannot prepare the whole meal, prepare one useful ingredient. If you cannot complete the project, identify the next action and gather the materials. If you cannot have the full conversation, write down what you need to say. The smaller action keeps your relationship with the task alive. You are telling yourself, I may adjust the size, but I do not have to abandon the direction. Flexibility is not the opposite of discipline. Sometimes, flexibility is what keeps discipline possible. Habit 18. Track showing up. Not just results are often delayed. You can study today and still feel confused. Exercise today and see no physical change. Apply for a job and receive no immediate response. Have a difficult conversation and still feel uncomfortable afterward. If results are the only evidence you count, effort can begin to feel pointless. Track the behavior you control. Did you sit down? Did you make the call? Did you practice? Did you send the application? Did you return after a difficult day? This is not about giving yourself meaningless praise. It is about measuring the part of progress that actually belongs to you. You cannot control every result, but you can notice whether you continue to participate. The final habits help you build trust in your ability to follow through. Habit 19. Stop with the next step prepared. Do not always end a work session at a point of total confusion. Before you stop, leave a note for your future self. Next, write the example. Next, call the clinic. Next, check the numbers in column 3. Next, read page 42. You can also leave the correct document open or place the needed tool on top. A clear next step reduces the friction of returning without it. Tomorrow begins with another decision. Where was I? What was I doing? What should happen next? A short note answers those questions before they become obstacles. You are building a bridge from today's effort to tomorrow's beginning. Habit 20. Close one small unfinished loop each day. Unfinished tasks collect emotional weight. Even when you are not actively thinking about them, they remain in the background. Choose one small loop and close it. Reply to the message. Submit the form. Put the item away. Schedule the appointment. Pay the bill. Make the decision you already have enough information to make. Do not choose the largest problem every day. Choose something small enough to complete. Closing one loop creates a sense of movement and reduces the background noise of everything waiting for you. One completed task will not solve your entire life, but it can make your mental space feel less crowded. Habit 21. Do not avoid the same thing twice in a row. You will miss days, you will delay things, you will have moments when avoidance wins. The goal is not perfection. The important moment is the next opportunity. If you skip the walk today, take a short walk tomorrow. If you avoid the document in the morning, open it for 2 minutes in the afternoon. If you cancel the difficult conversation once, choose a new time instead of letting it disappear. One avoidance is an event. Repeated avoidance begins to become a pattern. This rule gives you room to be human without allowing one difficult moment to decide the next week. You are not trying to maintain a perfect record. You are practicing the return, and the ability to return matters more than never slipping. These 21 habits all point toward the same idea. You do not become capable of hard things by waiting until hard things feel easy. You become more capable by changing what happens during the first few moments of resistance. You make the task smaller. You make the beginning clearer. You place distractions farther away. You stay with discomfort a little longer. You allow imperfect work. You return after you avoid. And each time you do that, you create a piece of evidence. Evidence that you can start before you feel ready. Evidence that you can feel bored without escaping immediately. Evidence that a difficult day does not have to become a lost week. Evidence that you can trust yourself to return. But there is one final warning. Do not turn these 21 habits into 21 new rules that you use to criticize yourself. You do not need a complicated tracker. You do not need to perform every habit every day. You do not need to become a perfectly disciplined machine. Choose one habit that solves your current problem. If starting is hard, use the 2-minute entry. If distraction is the problem, move your phone. If perfection is stopping you, make an ugly first version. If inconsistency is the problem, create a minimum version. If you keep disappearing after one bad day, do not avoid the same thing twice. Pick one. Practice it for a week. The goal is not to force your brain into obedience. The goal is to make a different response more familiar. At first, the old pattern may still feel stronger. You may still hesitate. You may still want to escape. That does not mean the habit is failing. Training happens when the discomfort is present and you choose one small action anyway. You do not become someone who can do hard things by becoming fearless. You become that person by discovering that fear, boredom, uncertainty, and frustration can come with you, and they do not have to choose your next move. Small actions may not look impressive from the outside. Opening the file is not impressive. Walking for 10 minutes is not impressive. Writing one rough paragraph is not impressive. Returning after a missed day is not impressive, but repeated over time. These actions change the story you tell yourself. From, I always avoid difficult things, to, I know how to begin. From, I need motivation, to, I can do the minimum version. From, I failed again, to, I came back. That is how hard things become easier. Not because the work disappears, because your ability to meet it grows. This is human in progress, not perfect. Just getting better, one small step at a time.